Hi, good morning. I'm Jimmy Quinn, President of IOSH, and I'm thrilled to open this Future Leaders Virtual Conference 2021. I know we have people joining us from across the globe, and I'd like to offer you the warmest of welcomes. The Future Leaders Steering Group is something that I take a massive interest in, and between me and the next president, it's something that we want the steering group to be aware of. We want to be involved and assist you in everything that you do. You've no doubt checked out the programme already, so know that the 3 days of the conference will feature a mix of presentations, interactive Q&As, panel debates and workshops, plus plenty of opportunities to network. All these fantastic activities relate to 4 key areas: soft skills and leadership, equality, diversity and inclusion, mental health and well-being, and career progression. We'll be joined by a diverse range of speakers and industry experts from big name organisations, along with senior IOSH staff and volunteers, and of course, the Future Leaders Steering Group. More about them later. There are so many great sessions that it's hard to pick out the highlights, and I'm also pleased that our special guests are based in companies around the world, including Canada and Ghana. Here are just a few examples of what you can expect, and I'm sure you'll get an idea about the calibre of our speakers and the flavour of the discussions. Our special guests today include Keith Lewis from Zurich, UK, whose interactive workshop will focus on how to build your brand online. Tomorrow, Louise Ward from Siemens, Josh Huggins from Principal People, and Dr. Suranda Deshi from the University of Birmingham will look at the soft skills required for an IOSH graduate to enter the world of work from the viewpoints of an employer, recruiter, and education establishment. On Thursday, Dr. Stephanie Fitzgerald from Rolls-Royce will use the latest neuropsychology evidence to explore why health issues are safety issues. And helping to shape the skills of the future IOSH professional will be Zoe Davies of the BBC and John Green of SNC Lavalin. I encourage you to fully immerse yourself in this virtual experience, and here's why. The content is tailored to you. That is new, inspiring professionals to help you on your IOSH journey. We want to inject new and forward thinking that instigates discussions and networking. We want to provide you with the best tools and learning outcomes. We want you to come away with fresh approaches to tackle the challenges of today and tomorrow. We want you to be successful. Of course, some of these challenges are a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has highlighted the role of the IOSH professional in protecting health and safety and well-being of the workforce. One of the impacts of the pandemic is to move to a more virtual world. And whilst this can have drawbacks, it also has the advantage of making events such as this more inclusive. We chose the conference platform specifically because it enables our delegates to network with people wherever they are in the world. I really do recommend that you do as much networking as you can. There are several sessions built in to the programme each day, and this is your chance to make new contacts, chat with like-minded people, and extend your professional community. I really do feel passionately about taking advantage of all the opportunities on offer at this conference. It's not so long ago that I was new to IOSH, having changed career after 2.5 decades in the army. And I think that's been well publicised over the last couple of years. IOSH and its members helped me navigate the difficult transition into a new career. And if the Future Leaders community had been around at that time, especially if I was leaving as a younger veteran with exceptional leadership skills in this age group, as many young veterans do, I would certainly have joined this group and hope going forward that younger veterans are on the Future Leaders Group agenda, especially those stepping into the OHS family. Saying that, I hope my son Cameron is here today as a new IOSH member working in the Middle East, and Rachel, someone I've been mentoring in construction health and safety. The community members that they have met, the steering group, are bursting with enthusiasm, dynamism and innovation, and it's reassuring that the future of the health and safety industry is in their hands. For those new to IOSH or thinking of joining, our Future Leaders community is made up of members who hold student membership, are aged 35 or under, or have fewer than 5 years professional IOSH experience. We have 6,500 members and counting. The community is supported by the 8 Strong Future Leaders Steering Group, who work with IOSH to ensure that IOSH content, resources and events are relevant to those at the start of their career. I would like to say a huge thank you for all their hard work. Now it's my absolute pleasure to hand over to Hayley Wright from the group. Over to you, Hayley.
Thanks for the introduction, Jimmy. That's brilliant. So when we as a steering group first discussed the programme, what we wanted to do was not to focus so much on the technical skills. Of course, these are, really important, but what we wanted were the sort of activities that you don't get from a classroom, from a course or a book or a website. We want the sort of sessions that give you the latest insights, practical solutions, expert advice, all within sort of a global perspective. We wanted to look at the challenges that we're facing now. So how to be impactful in a remote environment, how to create a healthy digital culture in the workplace. So the sessions over the next few days are great. We'd love for you to get involved in as many as you can, interact with the speakers, network with all the other attendees. And don't worry if you can't attend everything. You do have access on the platform where you can go back and sort of watch again on demand. Also note that we've got the steering group available, and I know some of you are talking to them already on Swapcard. So do say hello and ask questions to the steering group as well, who are available. So the next sort of 3 days, perfect opportunity for you to immerse yourself in your CPD and your professional journey. It's perfect you time. So there's no doubt you're going to come away feeling inspired, really empowered and informed, and have tons of fresh ideas. So let's get things underway. Our first session is Zoe Davies, who's Head of Safety at BBC, on the theme of IOSH leadership in the future. So Zoe has had a really interesting career in sales, in corporate hospitality, retail, real estate, given her an insight into how different industries use language to influence people, to influence culture, to influence decisions. So from cranes to cameras, Zoe went from construction safety to in-house advisory at a fast-paced sports, media and entertainment company, IMG Endeavour. And then nearly a decade later, Zoe has joined as a new head of safety at the BBC. So we will be taking questions for Zoe, so please put them in the Q&A in the live discussion tab, and Robert will pose them a little bit later on. So Zoe, I'm really pleased to have you here and thrilled that you're our keynote, so I'll hand over to you.
Hayley, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It is an absolute pleasure to deliver this keynote for you. And exactly like you've just heard, there is a fab lineup over the next 3 days, and do make the most of it. And I'll see you again in the last session on day 3. So over the last 12 months, you and I have been at home watching our TVs, listening to our radios, and being entertained by content on our devices. We've bonded over Strictly Come Dancing, been divided by Match of the Day, been addicted to the Rap Game UK, and got the good feels when watching The Repair Shop. Not to mention relishing the chance to look into the lockdown lives of the queens of RuPaul's Drag Race UK. With podcasts, we've stayed loyal to our favourite comedians, taken talk shows with us on our daily walks, and learnt that Peter Crouch is actually quite funny. The news has brought us all the latest COVID announcements, updates, rules, changes to rules, plus kept us informed on what's happening across the globe as we all adjusted to the new normal. And we've still got the Six Nations Grand Slam decider this weekend to raise our heart rates, wear our team colours, shout at the TV, and have something new to talk about next week at work. You and I, we haven't been able to go anywhere. We've been stuck in a Groundhog Day of work by Zoom, drinks by Zoom, training by Zoom, dating by Zoom, but every day we have the chance to move from our laptop screens, a place where we have to give our energy, and go into our TV screens, a place that gives us escape, entertainment, and takes us to a different world. Behind all that content made during the pandemic, that output, those TV programs, podcasts, and educational series are teams of people supported by teams of advisors and enablers, a crack squad of problem solvers. Have a look at the recent series of Holby City filmed during the pandemic. How did they do that kissing scene between Donna and Alex? How did EastEnders keep filming? What tricks and techniques did they use to bring us our daily dose of drama? There's a fab piece on YouTube showing you the behind the scenes of exactly how EastEnders filmed with those COVID rules in place. Behind all these programs, there's a team of people who have had to turn their hand to something new, something they've never come across before. They had to quickly understand the hazard and understand the goals of the production and develop safe ways of working, keeping the show on the road. Like the teams in production, we have all had to innovate, think creatively, and problem solve. Being able to adapt and use our core skills as IOSH professionals has really come to the fore over the last 12 months. And it's something we will need to do again and again as future leaders in health and safety. So what did we learn from the last 12 months? That art form of creating health and safety guidance from scratch, working it out, heck, making it up, we have had to hone in on our abilities to research, digest complex articles, devise simple guidance, and solve problems to enable the work activities to continue. Normally, when something new comes up in our work, a new hazard, something we're not familiar with, we can call on a mate in our network who has done it before, and we can borrow their guidance document, look at their risk assessment, and sense check our thoughts. Sometimes we borrow each other's homework, or knowledge trading, as I like to call it. Not for COVID. No one has done filming during a pandemic before. We were on our own, but we were together in responding to this. Our network and our collective ability to find realistic solutions made us valuable to our organisations. Keep hold of this. Your network is your added value. The pandemic has accelerated the evolution of many things, including how offices will be used, our home life balance, the phasing out of the joyous daily commute. But it has also made us, the IOSH professionals, dig deep into a skill set that's going to future-proof us. Our organisations have learned to value us in a way that sees us as enablers and problem solvers, not just sources of advice. Our organisations, our clients, they have learned that we are flexible. We can think on our feet, we can think outside the box, and we are aligned to their goals. We've learned that we can communicate at all levels, be succinct and efficient with our input, and share the motivations they have to produce great content. They've seen now that we don't hide behind pages of guidance and policies. We're interested in their work, and we're here to support, enable, and assure. For us, for our future leadership, the pandemic has done us a favour. It shifted our value and the way we work with the risk owners. So cut yourselves some slack. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've done a diploma in communicable disease and pandemic risk management, except there was no course there to teach me, no books to reference, no mate at another company to copy from. Faye Rockley and I embarked on this pandemic when I was at IMG Endeavour, and we just applied our raw skills and worked it out. Hi, Faye. And this pandemic, didn't it just keep going on? Our resilience through this has been tested to its edges. And in the process, we've learned about ourselves, how we respond to demands, pressure, and constant changes, but also how to recognize when we're being effective, how to step up, and how to be integrated with the goals of the organisation we work for. Faye and I learned to align our advice tightly with the objectives of the productions and our organisations. I was asked how my views on safety leadership have changed in the last 12 months. The need for us to understand the business, unearth the true objectives of the organisation we support, be informed, creative and effective with our advice, enable and influence. These skills, these have been highlighted to us, and they are where we've been able to add value to an organisation. For those IOSH professionals who thought this job was all about forms, written processes, documented guidance, may have been caught napping or fallen behind the curve. We learned to be succinct, be on top of the latest changes, and to translate those changes into support of keeping the world turning. We proved that we are able to be effective communicators and sources of influence. We learned some new skills. We learned to communicate via all platforms. We reformatted ourselves into the online space. We generated rapid updates and made the most of apps such as Zoom webinars to deliver mass messaging in a human format, not in size 12 black font on a white sheet of A4 paper. It's been exciting, it's been scary, and it's been exhausting to have to teach ourselves how to be enablers and how to do it remotely. That resilience, that has been a core skill set we've needed in order to remain effective and relevant and of value to our clients and our organisations. We've had to turn our hand to something we didn't cover in any of our NEBOSH exams. There's no module for being a safety advisor during a pandemic, not yet anyway. So in the world of TV making, everyone, safety advisors, production people, everyone learned to understand the hazard, learned to evaluate the risks, and learned how to implement controls that meant the chances of having a COVID outbreak and coming off air remained as low as possible. Everyone took responsibility to understand how to manage the risk. Everyone, producers, production managers, directors, camera crew, took the time to understand this hazard and what they need to do in order to protect themselves, their colleagues, and the production. For me, this pandemic, this has been a catalyst for what was already in the pipeline for health and safety. Empowerment through knowledge resulting in true risk ownership. The risk owners, the producers, the production managers, the directors, they learned that actually getting your head around a hazard and working out how to manage and work with it is something that everyone can do, not just the health and safety advisor. Health and safety is becoming more accessible. NEBOSH courses are more affordable and available online in some really awesome formats. Have a look at the enthusiasm Daisy Silcock has for training and making safety management accessible to all. To continue to film during the pandemic, it took for everyone to understand the hazard and work out what they can do in their division to manage the risks, whether it was hair and makeup, the props department, or the intimacy coordinator. Everyone spent time understanding it and redesigning their workflows to manage it. The health and safety professional coached this. For those of you who enjoyed watching The Serpent on BBC One, did you spot when filming in Bangkok stopped and then continued in England when they couldn't return to filming in Thailand? I didn't. I'm watching it again to try and spot it. That craft and creativity to film The Serpent in a totally different environment is impressive. Google it. Google it. We probably use that phrase every day. It's an indicator for change in the role of health and safety leadership, a change that has already happened. So much of what we need to know is now readily available and accessible on the internet. Anytime, anywhere, we can Google it, checking the wording of a regulation, looking up standards, finding advice. It's all there and anyone can Google it. Anyone. Technical knowledge is just one part of future health and safety leadership. The ability to learn from online, to self-teach, to watch YouTube videos explaining things, to listen to podcasts on a new topic. This has all made our world of health and safety so much more accessible and available. This is a great thing and really supports a risk ownership model, letting the risk owners have far more informed positions and capable of making good choices. So, is the writing on the wall? Are the clues already there as to what health and safety leadership for the future looks like? As health and safety professionals, we constantly have to keep on top of our game, our competencies and our professional development. And we should all be working to a framework, a competency framework. It's a really smart way of knowing what competencies you may need to work on and how to get there. So let's talk about IOSH as we're here in the IOSH conference. The competency framework, there's 69 competencies and it's split into 12 areas. And these are set into 3 main points: technical, core, behavioural. Technical is 1/3. There's lots for us to get our teeth stuck into. And these changes to the competency framework and the future blueprint 2.0, they're a result of research undertaken a few years ago. It was already in the pipeline. Now, I know this is an IOSH conference, but the future of safety leadership is written elsewhere too. So IIRSM, in their competency framework, they cover 3 areas: technical, behavioural and business. And the ACRE framework's probably one of the most progressive and relevant frameworks out there. Now, it takes more than technical expertise to succeed in purpose-driven roles, but there's a shortage of individuals with those skills to drive change and deliver desired business outcomes. ACRE framework, that was designed to tackle that skill gap head on. So how progressive are we talking when I mention this framework? I wanted to explore the ACRE frameworks a little more as they're at the forefront of change, and these are specific to our profession. So Anna Keane and her team, they recently published a white paper where they looked at what the future of health and safety leadership looks like. And I'm going to share with you the 6 attributes to this white paper, or the 6 attributes that this white paper identified. Number 1, be constant questioners rather than knowers. Awesome. Number 2, to become masters of emotional and relational intelligence rather than of technical expertise. Number 3, to inspire others to find a sense of purpose in the work they do and create intrinsic motivation rather than offer purely extrinsic rewards. Number 4, to reveal unseen opportunities and challenges by embracing uncertainty and vulnerability rather than trying to or attempting to engineer the humanity out of the work processes. Number 5, to be a servant leader rather than a figure of authority in a hierarchical relationship. And number 6, to listen loudly and coach rather than command and control. So for those of us who have teams of health and safety professionals, the question is, 1, how do we instill a new idea of what good leadership looks like? And 2, how do we create more space for them to think differently and innovate from day 1? We'll look more at this in the final session on day 3. Now, Kendall Texter, what a name. She's your woman to watch on this space. She's a trained psychological researcher and author of that white paper. One of the most valuable things I have done for my professional development is to discover and develop my non-technical and self-leadership needs with Kendall. It was a game changer. Now, it's clear from my discussions with my networks that we need to be agile and somewhat reinvent ourselves through our careers. Just like Madonna, She re-imaged, she reimagined, she represented her music and her style and remained relevant and in demand. All the competency frameworks I've mentioned, they require us to reflect on our interpersonal skills and our behaviours. So much of what we know on the technical side can be Googled, and even we should be checking the regs from time to time to ensure we're up to date, aligned with guidance, and keeping with the curve. But let's remember, evolution, not revolution. So what other indicators of change are out there? What's coming up for us as futures leaders in health and safety? NEBOSH diploma. I know that may fill a few people with dread, but the NEBOSH diploma, I'm a big fan of this qualification, but have a look at Unit D and how it's had a shift change in the last few years. Pre-2015, the assignment was overall review of a health and safety management system and was focused on risk assessment and hazard identification. Post-2015, the assignment required something different. You had to carry out a review of the arrangements for managing health and safety in a workplace and to produce justified, proportionate recommendations to improve health and safety performance. The scoring was weighted on your ability to identify standards, measure what's qualitative, seek out leading indicators, and make strong cost-benefit analysis and argument for your recommendations. True business skills, and that's strong stuff. That's a strong change from the NEBOSH diploma. What we do now has changed, so much so that even the exam boards have copped onto it. And exam boards are readying people with a renewed skill set, something more valuable to an IOSH team. With the ACRE frameworks, they say in their white paper, we believe there is a call to action to define a more forward-thinking set of non-technical skills. And this is where diversity and inclusion are a big player in our future strengths. The most effective teams are diverse in thought and experiences and inclusive of all those who have different thoughts and unique experiences. Group thinking will limit your team's ability to be progressive and problem solve. Now, Oren Harari, a business professor from the University of San Francisco, said, "The electric light did not come from the continual improvement of candles." We need diversity in our teams, our networks, our group of safety mates to be able to consider different views, alternative ways and fresh ideas from unique experiences and professions. I spent a lot of time in competitive sport. You can probably spot the rowing here. Spent years and years training and competing. I don't miss those 5 a.m. alarms. When you have a team, you don't have a set of clones, you have individuals, and the challenge is to understand all the strengths and utilize those to your advantage. In rowing, we want technicians in the bows, rhythm makers in the stern, and the middle four to be an absolute powerhouse of fitness and strength. Combine that team and the boat goes faster. So James Pomeroy, he's Group HSES Director at Lloyd's Register. He's quoted as saying, "Making a sustainable impact in today's workplace requires practitioners who are emotionally intelligent, with strong communication, engagement, and marketing capabilities." Emotional intelligence, fine, we get it. Strong communication, yep, sounds good. And engagement capabilities, fab. But marketing, this is a bit left field, or is it? Before I started my career in health and safety, I did a few other things. I studied French at uni, wasn't too sure what I wanted to be, but from those 4 years, I learned critical thinking, philosophy, cultural change, use of language, debating, research, and communication. I use every one of those in my safety career. After uni, I went on to be a students' union co-president. I had a great time, but I learned how to get support, get votes, write policy, format strategies, and deliver change. I use every one of those in my safety career. Then the sales career, which Hayley mentioned. So I started with Monsoon Accessorize during my final years at school, and I continued with them through university. Years of training in practice in selling and upselling. I then worked for Foxtons. Some of you may know them as a bit of a notorious London estate agency. I had a Mini which was pink and blue, and I was selling properties in South Kensington. It was where I developed a thick skin, but I also received some of the best sales training I've ever known. Question-based selling. Getting to know the buyer and their needs, their visions, their challenges and their motivations. And then some years later, I was selling corporate hospitality, where the training and experience was founded on question-based selling, motivation discovery, and aligning the product to the client's real needs. I had fun. Now, I've not forgotten the training from all my sales roles. It is invaluable today. How do we get someone to buy into an idea, a new way of doing something? So the sales and marketing professionals, they are wonderful at getting us to buy multiple handbags, more trainers than we can wear, plain hoodies with just one tiny little logo on. Clever. Sales and marketing is powerful, and you would be missing a trick if you overlooked it as something to have in your team, in your toolbox. Bringing a product to the user in a way that leaves the user wanting to be engaged is invaluable. The rollout of your initiatives needs the input of a marketeer. Designers are your ally. So often safety professionals overlook user design and make the system more suited for themselves. Your designer will support you in seeing the product from the user's point of view. Embrace this diversity of thought. The future of safety leadership will see us needing to draw on these inputs, either from our own experience or by building a team that reflects these valuable skills. Future health and safety leadership will have knowledge and experience in these fields. So I'm now age 36 and I'm 3 months into my new role as head of safety at the BBC. I should probably add here now how I got into safety, as it all seems very sales based, and then voila, safety at the BBC. So I was working in construction at a crane company and learning the ropes, how the business is managed and operates. I became an appointed person to do lift planning. I learned CAD to do 3D drawings, and I spent a lot of time in the oil refineries and steelworks of West Wales. I was asked to do the health and safety, to look after the health and safety, because I was organised, academic, and not fazed by paperwork. Classic. I did it, I trained up, I found mentors, and I influenced changes to keep the people safe. But whilst I was there, I learned a valuable strength. I didn't look like a safety advisor. I wasn't what people expected when a construction safety advisor turned up on site. What this meant was that I could get a true observation of working practices when I was visiting sites. Normally, people spot the clipboard wielding safety advisor a mile off and change what they do. It's a bit like tucking your shirt in when the head teacher's walking down the corridor. And people change what they do because they're being observed. They act differently, totally opposite psychological safety and safety too. And then we, the safety advisor, we get a skewed illustration of what's actually happening on the ground. Now, roll on a few years, and this worked to my favour when I was undertaking assurance visits at Hyde Park Winter Wonderland. I spent just short of 10 years working in-house across the IMG Endeavour Group, an amazing experience. The future of health and safety requires us to morph into different roles. Be sharp and on point when presenting to boards and C-suites. Be personable and enabling when supporting the factory floor. And have a growth mindset when you meet something you don't know that much about or how to do. Be opening to learning, to bridging the gap. A As part of becoming more effective in my communications, I've learned how to film and edit videos. I've learned how to use editing software such as Final Cut Pro, and I've learned how to record and produce podcasts. These skills aren't on any particular competency framework, but effective communication is on every single one. So, how should future leaders in IOSH understand and act on big issues like sustainability, human rights, and human capital? Now, there are a whole host of quality speakers and panelists who will explore these juicy topics with you. Give yourself time to top up your knowledge and become comfortable with the conversation. Practice. Remember to consider more than one viewpoint and consider viewpoints from outside the safety profession. Normally, when we think of sustainability, most of us think of environmental issues, planting trees, reducing carbon footprints, but that's just environmental sustainability. What about social sustainability? For me, that's where health and safety really finds its feet. Social sustainability, it's a process for creating sustainable, successful places that promote well-being by understanding what people need from the places they live and work. Now, we're talking here of equity. Equity in safety provisions to protect the health of all equally. Social equity and sustainability, it implores us to imply the same safety measures in a developing country as we would in a developed country because, well, aren't all lives equally valuable? Now, I'm a fan of corporate social responsibility and how the safety agenda sits within it. I've been reading and developing my views and experience on this subject for some years, and I'm a guest lecturer at Birmingham University on the subject. Dr. Surinder Desi, she got me into this and she runs that department at Birmingham Uni. She's one of your speakers at this conference, so go check her out. Hi, Surinder. So for me, future leadership requires us to power up our role, be more than just a source of safety advice, enable, problem solve, align with business objectives, coach the non-safety people. Know within yourself how improved safety performance can improve overall organisational performance. It isn't always about the financial risks of fines, fees for intervention or civil action. Get good at selling the benefits of safety, how improved safety performance will impact the bottom line without it all being about fines and penalties. So we're all pretty good at the big three reasons: legal, moral, financial, but brush up on selling the reputational risks and the benefits associated with safety performance. And expand this, build your rhetoric on human capital, educate yourself, listen to safety and non-safety podcasts on human capital. Understand how the business views human capital and align with it and speak their language. Assimilate, Google it. So human capital, it's an intangible asset, it's a quality, it's not listed on a company's balance sheet. And it can be classified as the economic value of a worker's experience and skills. So that includes assets like education, training, intelligence, skills, health, and other things employers value, such as loyalty and punctuality. So for example, countries which invest in the quality of their teaching, in their education systems, are investing in their human capital. They're making the humans, the capital, as valuable as possible, which in turn improves the country's potential. This is the same in businesses. So where does health and safety fit in for human capital? If you think of your humans as your assets, you're investing in them. You need to protect them and ensure a return on your investment. Part of protecting them, like you do for any machines or equipment you invest in, is to ensure they don't get sick, injured, hurt, or worn out. Future health and safety leadership will see us well versed with conversation around health and safety, contributing to the sustainability and the protection of the workforce, the human capital. Now, the team at IOSH asked me, what major challenges do IOSH leaders face in years ahead? I thought about answering with some of the buzzwords we hear, such as emerging risks, automation, globalization. They're all going to happen, and yep, they will be a challenge. But who knows what's going to happen in years ahead? What new risks are going to pop up? What socio-economic and political changes the world is going to see? Now, if you want some idea of what the future shape of the world will be, then follow Tim Marsh and read his new Powers of Geography book. It's awesome. So we're working in a time where businesses operate, the way businesses operate is being disrupted. Disruptors, we hear this all the time. Organizations aren't playing to the rules anymore. They're making their own rules and they're making themselves known and successful for it. You only need to read No Rules Rules by Reed Hastings and Erin Meyer, the guys behind Netflix, to see the potential and future of the working world. Go with it, the writing's on the wall, and follow Ruth Denyer, she's their new Director of Safety. So what challenges do IOSH leaders face in years ahead then? At this moment in time, I think safety professionals are the challenge. Our profession is at risk of holding itself back. We're changing how organisations do health and safety, how they own it, how they integrate it. Managing safety isn't a superpower reserved for the elite. It's for everyone to know about. The challenge we have is to change views that people have of safety and what it meant and what it means and what it can do for them, the risk owners. We are the face of safety. We are the magazine cover. We represent what safety is. We're someone's first impression of safety. Now, all too often, we've seen IOSH professionals protect their roles and functions by overcomplicating it, making it something that only they can do, a specialism that can't be borne by the non-safety workers. Now, don't get me wrong, there are areas of health and safety where you need to be an expert and have the training, the qualifications, the experience, know the detail, and have the technical proficiency. But in so much of what we do now and in the future as health and safety leaders, we will coach the organisations to integrate safety management into the way they do business, enable organisations to own the knowledge and empower their workforce. You didn't need a physics degree to be let on to do the NEBOSH certificate course. Safety was always meant to be accessible to all and owned by the organisation. But I do think there are pockets in our profession unwilling to change, and that will be a challenge for future leaders. I also think future health and safety leaders are challenged to undo some of what that has been done. As an example, so many people think a risk assessment is a form they have to fill in. How did that happen? Now, you and I know that Reg 3 says a risk assessment is a suitable and sufficient assessment for the purpose of identifying measures you need to take. Where does it tell you to fill in a form and complete a somewhat pointlessly subjective risk matrix? The reg says you have to record it. It doesn't say you have to write it down. Even the HSC's guidance says, do not rely purely on paperwork, as your main priority should be to control the risks in practice. Sage advice. And all credit to the HSC. I'm a big fan of the way they present their advice. It's relevant, it's designed for the risk owner. They're making safety accessible to all, not just the IOSH professionals. It's important to understand the past when challenging the present, but this in turn will help us lead on shaping the future. Now, there are two schools of thought on what the future of our profession is. Some believe the role of the health and safety advisor may not exist in years to come. Others believe the health and safety profession is something to aspire to from school age. Either way, what both schools of thought are in agreement on is that health and safety leadership will become more business focused, cultural change experts, business continuity gurus, and asset protection designers. Now, in a moment, Hayley or Robert will be back on your screen and we'll have a look at some of the questions that have come in. But first, I'm going to channel Jerry Springer and give you my final thought. Have fun with this. Be curious, experiment, build your trusted network and give and take from it in equal parts. Be like Madonna or Prince or Bowie. Be open to reinventing yourself. Our profession is changing, and if evolution is anything to go by, it'll change again. So ready yourself, widen your skills, top up your knowledge, practice. If there's one thing I've learned from coaching and competing in sport, is that the race gets faster, the tech gets smarter, and the opposition get better. Keeping up is one thing, getting ahead is another strategy altogether. So I mentioned I went to uni. I went to UCL, University College London, and they have a mantra that stayed with me and really shaped who I am. Understand the past, challenge the present, and shape the future. And so to finish off, in the words of Jed Bartlett, President of the United States of America in TV's The West Wing, keep asking, what's next? Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to your questions.
Wow, thank you for that, Zoe. That was incredible. I think if you put everything that I would possibly recommend people do in a box, and you've ticked every single box there, right the way through, yeah, literally everything from ACRE frameworks right the way through to growth mindset. Yeah, brilliant. For me, ACRE frameworks have been fantastic. There's a lot of good stuff that I've been able to do from them, and that, you know, really got us into talking about the soft skills. And what you can always teach technical skills, but the soft skills can be a lot harder to develop, I've found. Is that something that you would agree with?
Yeah, I think you have to practice. You have to learn from your mistakes, don't you? For any of us that have to have difficult conversations or challenging conversations, you practice and you learn from every single one. And sometimes I think that's why your network is invaluable. So when you're going into a tough conversation, or if you're practicing pitching an idea or presenting to the C-suite or even your peers, sometimes presenting to your peers is scarier than presenting to the C-suite. But having a network of people that have got your back and you can practice on and practice with, and who will genuinely give you decent feedback, that's invaluable. And I think for me, if you haven't got a place to practice, soft skills, human skills, then get your mates to role play it, like try it out, rehearse, practice. I think it's invaluable.
Well, that's absolutely agree with 100% there. I think, the soft skills are so valuable for what we do. And, there's so much in the industry that people can get involved with. You mentioned about ACRE frameworks, you mentioned about IRSM, as well as just the IOSH mentoring schemes. There's so much you can get out to.
I feel so bad mentioning everything in IOSH, but I mean, the writing's on the wall. It's not exclusive. It isn't just only IOSH that are saying this. The whole industry is, and that for me is reassuring.
Yeah, no, we need to get out there, and we need to cross boundaries. We need to get rid of these boundaries because when we go to the workplace, we need to erode them boundaries anyway. So as a profession, we need to be working together to drive the industry forward to how we want to see it. And, all these different schemes are available for our future leaders to get benefit from. For me, it's find what works for you and just keep going for these, all these different schemes. There's so much out there. Even just reach out on LinkedIn. There's so many people on LinkedIn that are willing to help within our profession, and just reach out. I know fine well that after this, I'm going to be sending you a message after this to reach out, because everything you said there was absolutely brilliant, and I agree with that.
I'll send you my YouTube channel.
And then we've got quite a lot of questions coming through. I've got 100 more that I could ask myself as well, but I think we better get to the Q&A, otherwise we'll probably have some quite angry members inboxing me after this. So the first question was from Jamie, and he's asked, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome, and at what point in your career did it manifest itself?
Do you know what? Imposter syndrome for me is a new word that, in Cosmopolitan and the magazines, I didn't know what it was years ago. At the age of 36, there's definitely imposter syndrome, because you always think that the people that do the management jobs and the leadership jobs, you always think they're much older. And I don't know about you, but I always think I'm 21. I'm still stuck in that kind of university age, and I don't really feel like I'm 36. And, you know, imposter syndrome, do I experience it? I've done a lot of self-development on managing and looking at what I do and how I do it. So for example, when you're nervous, you generate cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and that floods your prefrontal lobe and you can't think sharply. So I did a lot of training on developing how to change that into adrenaline. So it fires up that prefrontal lobe and I'm thinking sharp. So there's lots of stuff I've learned to do in order to ready myself for a situation where I think, oh, heck, I'm out of my depth here. And it happens all the time, but there's mechanisms and techniques for reassuring yourself. I think so Diane Holmes, my previous manager at IMG, she always used to say to me when I was nervous going into a big meeting and having to talk about safety, she was like, you're the subject matter expert. There's not really anybody else in this room that knows more about this than you. And that's the same kind of approach I take to job interviews. Nobody in that job interview knows more about the subject than me. So for an exam, it's pretty easy because I know all the answers because I lived it. So yes, imposter syndrome does exist, but there are some fab techniques on working with it.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. I've fully experienced some of that myself from time to time. I think a lot of the future leaders have as well. Certainly some of the discussions I've had around that has been around overcoming that. And I think you just got to realize that you're there because you've done, you know, for being you've achieved stuff. You've got them courses, you've passed them, you've made the experience in your current roles, and you've deserved it to own it. So you just got to get out there and do it. And one of the things quite recently that I got involved with was Project More Time, which was by one of our other future leaders steering group members, and we were able to raise some good discussions there about some of the issues that we were facing each week. And then, you know, we were able to kind of talk about different points, and then we were able to make some actions for the following week. And you know, it's a really good support group, and these things are creeping up all over the place. So yeah, for the future leaders, just get out there and, you know, don't be afraid to discuss these issues, because a lot of people have experienced them. And the more I speak to people like yourself that are a little bit more experienced than me, that have a lot more knowledge and skills in the area, the more I find that you're just human as well as I am, and you've had the exact same challenges.
Flagging it as well. Yeah, we're just going to make it up.
All right, so second question by Stuart. He's asked, has COVID-19 and a response to keep the BBC functional had any conflict with IOSH activity usually required? And if so, how did you overcome this?
How do you mean? How do you understand that question?
I think I'm getting the impression has the response within the BBC caused any conflict for the IOSH, you know, your usual IOSH activities that you'll be undertaking, or your usual approach to delivering IOSH within the BBC? Probably a bit harsh question considering you've only been in it a few months.
Crucial question, yeah. Let me just imagine an answer. No, I tell you what, there is a phenomenal team there. And like I say, they have been stretched to the edges in terms of what we do, how we do it. One of the tough things is that your comfort blanket of, there's always a chapter in your NEBOSH book on this, or one of your mates at another company has done this before and you can kind of copy their homework on it. That's gone. It's terrifying. Yes, there will definitely have been standard IOSH practices or routines that would have to have been paused. So not stopped, let's say paused. And prioritized. One of the things that all in-house safety teams have had to do, and definitely when I was at ING Endeavour, we had to just relook at what is essential right now, what needs to be done, and what needs to be altered. So we're looking at things like training. There's mandatory training that lapses, and we had to come up with other ways of making sure that people's safety passports were topped up. Faye and I came up with the idea of having knowledge top-ups. So whilst people are at home, we can give them some top-ups on CDM in production and risk assessment and things like that. So I would say the standard IOSH practices, the stuff we do day in, day out, either were paused or pivoted.
That's fantastic. That I think you know, we all had to respond to this this threat, or well, risk actually, and because there was opportunity within it as well that some of us managed to capitalize on. On the other side of it as well, one of the things that I personally found beneficial when you talk about prioritization was discussing that with my peers. Reaching out to one of my mentors, I reached out to them, and I also discussed it on the Project Muller time. Was about prioritization. And is there any tips you would give around prioritization?
Yeah, close your inbox, turn it off. We get so distracted, don't we? We have our inboxes open and ping, 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 and then loads of stuff detracts from what we need to do right now. I don't believe in multitasking. I don't think I can do two things at once and be good at both. So for me, prioritization is doing one thing at a time and doing it well. Don't let perfection get in the way of good. This is what somebody always says to me. So at school, I was like, yeah, I want A grades. And you kind of come out with that work ethic of, I want everything to be blimmin' perfect. But sometimes good is okay if perfect isn't quite achievable within the prioritization of everything else. I would say look after yourself. Now, Faye and I used to have an expression at Endeavour. So sometimes you feel the stress, you feel the bubbling up, you're like, ooh, and often I can see my forehead creasing in like this. And I would say, do you know what? We can't expense the Botox. So let's not let the wrinkles and grey hairs get to us. Now, Faye and I don't do Botox, just for the record there. I think this is being recorded and Faye's going to be rolling her eyes. But I think you've got to have that balance, haven't you? You rely on your network to pull you back, but also to give you a bit of a G up when you're nervous or you're planning in for something, or you just need a sense check. But for me, close the inbox. Don't always be sitting on the screen. It's absolutely fine to go take a walk and just think about something for an hour.
I agree 100% with that. I think you just got to get out there and strike them conversations. I know we've got COVID, but you still need to see people in person to see what's going on, see what's happening, and to be able to help and contribute to that as well. And that's getting involved in the leadership side of that as well, which is a whole different conversation there as well.
Yeah.
Another question then from Philip, and he's asked, when looking to hire a new member of your team, what skills and traits are you looking for, in the next kind of BBC health and safety professional if you were to expand the team?
Yeah, of course. You've got to be open-minded. I think if I was recruiting, I'd be open-minded to what profession you came from. People from different professions, so different industries, let's say for health and safety, will bring different ideas. So maybe somebody from oil and gas may have some fab new ways of looking at it, or somebody that's working in a different country where you don't quite have that health and safety law to back you up, might have some really creative ways of framing and positioning health and safety. So I think if you're ever applying for a role, don't write off any of your experiences. So I didn't start my safety career in, 10, 12 years ago. And before that, I was in sales, which can kind of be a bit, oh God, how does this apply? What do I do? How do I make it relevant? But work out how all your experiences are relevant to being a change driver. So I mentioned as well about marketing, communications, and I think those would be valuable skills to have within a team.
You're talking a little bit there about the cognitive diversity, and I know there's a lot going around about that, and having not only cognitive diversity but cross-functional diversity as well, which is massive about improving that. I guess you would agree that is very important for.
You're missing a trick. If you have a team, if I had a team, if I just employed loads of Zoe Davieses, probably be really annoying, but it wouldn't be diverse. We'd all be like, yes, great idea, Zoe. Well done, Zoe. Great idea. Let's do that. And off we go. And group think. You limit your challenges. Now, challenging a thought isn't about being aggressive or disrupting and things like that. You can do it in a professional and respectful way. So one of our goals, our values, is about value. Is about valuing people's views and opinions and experience. And it takes IOSH leadership to pull that up, to recognize that different people often different values and input, and to help them kind of seek their own value within that working group.
Would you say that health and safety should be a value then?
How do you mean?
Well, we talk all the time about, you see companies say health and safety is one of our value, But do you think that we should take it further and ingrain it into everything we do, and safety should be part of the business rather than some of these organisations creating massive safety departments where safety is separate from it? Because for me, I think it should be involved in the leadership. It should be involved in everything that we do, not just that safety team there doing that kind of safety aspect.
Totally agree with you. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Tim Marsh. He's brilliant. He came to IMG years ago and delivered a conference, and he's a fab speaker. I remember him saying, sort of calling companies out that said safety is our priority. Now, safety of people during COVID is a priority, don't get me wrong, but generally safety is not your priority. The bottom line is your priority. Your productivity is your priority. Safety is definitely shifting, and this is where sometimes people are afraid to go with it, and protecting what they do, what their skill set is, what their profession is, by kind of holding on to that kind of knowledge and not sharing it with the organization. But if you go back and have a look at, let's go to the HSE, they're the big dogs in this, and everything that they position is written for the risk owner. So INDG 417, leadership in health and safety, that's actually written for the managers, the leaders. It's not written for the health and safety advisors. So it's kind of there. It was always meant to be integrated, an integral way of how we do business. It's calling it a priority. I'm never convinced.
I love that. You mentioned Tim Marsh, and I love a lot of his work. I actually have a little story. When I went to his last talk, it's probably why I'm avoiding him at the moment, is him and Jay Stanker done a talk on resilience, which was brilliant. Until the next day, I came to my car and my car had been broken into in Leeds, and I was like, a bit apt timing for the talk on resilience when I come back to that. But next time he does a talk, I might just make sure I get the train rather than the car. So we have another question from Chloe this time, and she's asking, what is the BBC doing to support and encourage young professionals into the IOSH profession?
We've got an apprentice, which is awesome. I hadn't seen safety apprenticeships before I came into the profession. It wasn't something on the plate for me. It wasn't definitely at school. I wasn't kind of told, oh yeah, go into health and safety. It's brilliant. But we have an apprentice, Nathan, hopefully you're there, Nathan, hi. And he studies in tandem with practical work. Now, one of the beautiful things that he has is he's mentored. So we've got Debbie and Wendy, and they have phenomenal years experience and a range of experience across the genres of production, the industry, outside the industry, production activity, and they will be mentoring and coaching him throughout his qualification. So some of those skills, actually, he was tested on it last week. He had to deliver a presentation. He had to deliver it to me, his course tutors, our mentors, and it was brilliant. And we were able to give feedback about, I thought he came across really sharp. And I was able to talk about how he represents BBC safety. And then the rest of the team could talk about the other kind of requirements of that test as well. So in terms of, I want to say, new rather than young, so new people coming into the industry, the apprenticeship is fab for it.
It's brilliant that we've finally got there with an apprenticeship, and there has been numerous ones that we've advertised out there. I think there's still a little bit of trouble in getting them to all areas of the UK. I think from one of the IOSH branch seminars the other week, but at the same time, I think we're expanding that, and we've just got to keep pushing that. And I think if there is any out there, then please people get in touch, because I'm more than happy to share them. And I think the IOSH team as well would be happy to share these apprenticeships out there for people coming into the industry to actually get that first opportunity. Yeah. So we've got another question. I think we're probably getting close to the end now. So we've got another question, this time by Chloe again. And she's asked, what inspired you to become an IOSH professional, and what continues to drive your passion and enthusiasm for this?
The thing that drives me is to undo the reasons I got brought into the industry. So when I was working in that crane company, I got asked, you do health and safety, you're good at paperwork, you're academic, you're a safe pair of hands, you do it. And I got given an office, loads of big folders, and loads of kind of Excels and project sheets to keep an eye on everything. that for me isn't safety. Safety for me is far more to do with behavioral economics, psychology, cognitive renaissance, and it's all of that piece that's far more interesting, and I suppose what I'm more aligned to. So that's what I'm motivated. I'm motivated for change, not just within safety within the workplace and how organizations see safety, but also within the safety professional, ensuring that we are a best-in-class function and relevant to what organizations need now. So that for me, I'm really excited to see what happens next. And actually I watched some of the Future Leaders webinars, and it's keeping me on my toes. There's some big thoughts coming through that if I don't keep on top of it and stay with the curve, it's going to catch me up. So yeah, that's kind of, I suppose, a two-sided way of answering that question.
No, I agree 100% there. I think it's so hard to be ahead of the curve, and you've got to kind of constantly be looking out on all these information sources, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a webinar. But I think these do encourage us and help us be better and keep us on top of our game. Definitely 100% would agree with that. I've got one last question. This is the last question I've been asked to ask. So,
Okay.
and it's an interesting one, really, because it's one that is not only affecting what we do in our roles, but it's affecting the whole society. And Philip's asked, during the COVID-19 pandemic, how have you managed disinformation and managed to get staff on board to new and implemented control measures?
Okay. So yeah, disinformation is quite tricky, and a lot of it comes down to your integrity. So the reputation you already have. You do need to sense check. We've had to sense check. We've had to really turn our hand to understand the difference between lateral flow tests, PCRs, and then to be able to explain it in a really coherent and succinct way. I suppose the kind of the changing, or what's needed to have changed, and how to sort of help change practices in the workplace. Folks, it's nothing new. It all comes down to the basics of health and safety and risk assessment. You should do it with the people that are involved in that risk. If you do a risk assessment in isolation, come up with your controls, and then tell people this is what you got to do, they're going to go like, why? Don't get it, what's the deal? But if you engage people and go, hey, look, we've got this kind of pandemic, this is what it can do, this is how you transfer it, here's some really reputable sources of information, and these are the 5 key things you need to know. What do you think we need to do in order to redesign the workplace to keep you safe? And that for me is what the role of safety practitioner is now, is enabling that conversation, enabling risk assessment by the people that own that risk.
It's really building them relationships up with the teams, really, as well, isn't it? And one of the things that we've seen with disinformation is distrust as well of public institutions and public bodies sometimes, unfortunately. And for me, I've found something that's worked for me is developing them core relationships so that the workforce and the shop floor really trust me and trust what I'm saying, and resources that I'm recommending to them as well. I think that's going to be the end of the session so far. I think thank you for coming and giving this webinar. It was fantastic. And I think there's a hell of a lot of people already flooding my inbox there. I've got notifications flying up on the phone. So I think that's went down really well. And just again, it was absolutely brilliant. So as we're kind of coming towards the end of this opening session, you will meet members of the steering group throughout the 3 days of the panel discussions, but I am actually going to invite all of the members of the steering group to come on now and introduce themselves. So if Chloe, can you come on board and say hello?
I was on mute, sorry. Hello. Am I just introducing myself, Robert?
Yeah, just introduce yourself and say who you are, where you work, and the usual conference stuff.
No problem. I'm Chloe Hughes. I'm part of the steering group, obviously. I currently work as a health and safety advisor at Rolls-Royce, and we make airplane engines, not the cars, which is really cool. I'm also a student at the moment. I'm studying a PhD in organisational health and wellbeing. So yeah, feel free to drop me a line either on LinkedIn or on Swapcard.
What are you most excited for over the next 3 days?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. There's so much to be excited for. I mean, my mind is already blown, and we've only had one speaker, Zoe was absolutely incredible. So yeah, I can't say at the moment, there's just too much.
Brilliant. James, do you want to come on and introduce yourself? Philip, would you like to come on and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. My name is Philip Bankster. I am the Health and Safety Advisor for Games Workshop at the moment. So yeah, hi to everybody. Really looking forward to this 3 days. As Chloe said and Robert said, we've just had an amazing chat from Zoe. It's really been insightful. So if that's the standard that we're expecting over the next 3 days, then there's going to be some excellent things for people to take away. So really looking forward to it.
Liam, actually, Philip, what are you most looking forward to as well? Actually, what's the biggest thing you kind of...
We've got a lot of good talks. Myself and James got a talk straight after this with Sarah Brummett on remote environment, which I'm really looking forward to. And another one I'm part of at the final day, which Zoe is involved in again, looks to be a really, really good session. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Liam, do you want to come on and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi guys. Good to see everybody joining today. My name is Liam Kelly. I am currently the Health and Safety Manager for a formwork contractor based in Ireland. Yeah, so to preempt your question there, Robert, what am I looking forward to? Well, tomorrow I'm looking forward to the Bridging the Gap talk that I'm involved in, just to sort of give everybody a bit of guidance on how to get started in the industry. Some great people on that. So yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah.
Thank you, Liam. And James, don't know if you're still having problems. If you can hear me, can you come on and introduce yourself?
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yep, we can.
Oh yeah, sorry, buddy. Yeah, my name's James Mcpherson. Thank you. I'm the head of safety for the Glass and Glazing Federation. What an outstanding little keynote that was. What a great start. So much of what Zoe was saying, just absolutely right up my street. So yeah, thank you very much. That's about it. No one really wants to know about me too much, but yeah, that was it from me. Thank you, mate.
Right, well, I think that's all of the future leaders we have on the steering group. We do have more members of the team that you will get to know over the next 3 days. And I'd also like to take this chance to thank the IOSH webinars team. We have a great team behind the scenes here that do so much to make this possible. And they don't always get a chance to be on the screen. So just a massive thank you to them on that. And yeah, as we kind of look ahead, we're going to have a short break. And we have Sarah Brummett joining us at 12:30 for another great session. And this will be on how to be impactful in the remote environment. This will then be followed by some workshops, and you can either meet the IOSH Vice President, which will be talking about their own career journeys, or you could join a workshop with Keith Lewis, which will be on building your online brand, both of which will be absolutely fantastic. And don't worry, if you miss any of the sessions, you can always come back and have a look online on the catch-up sessions. Thank you.